Robbie?
What?
So he's filming you guys. You going on the train?
Right. Yeah, I'm going on the train. Cheese, please. No, this dripping water down. I don't know.
Like I was mentioning before, back in the early days, there was 3 railroads that came through. There were some 58 trains a day that came through the Cripple Creek and Victor area every day. And a lot of the mines had their own mine whistles and all on there. When they blew those whistles in this particular area, they could hear quite an echo. We're going to blow our whistle on the train, on the engine up here, and we'll see if we can get an echo out of it.
You heard in there when he didn't. Yeah.
Now, what is left of the town of Anaconda, which used to sit right down at the bottom of that boat right across the highway there, Anaconda was started 1894 and right around 1900, a population of about 1,000 people that used to live down there. And about all that's left of Anaconda right now is this blacksmith shop that's up ahead here. The old wooden structure there, that's the old blacksmith shop. And then down there, across the highway and across the shelf road there, you can see a little rock wall foundation there, and that was where the old Crowbar Hotel or the jail used to be. And that's about all that's left of Anaconda. Anaconda was named for the mine that was here, and the Anaconda Tunnel goes back up underneath this mountain here. Quite a little ways. It was like also a drainage tunnel and exploration and all that. It goes about 2,000 feet underneath the mountain up here behind the train. There's quite a few different mines up here on the hillside that all point out that Morning Glory mine. There's no head frame on the Morning Glory anymore. They tore that down. But those 2 head frames you do see up there on top of the hill up there, one of those is the Dolly Barton, the very top one up there. And the one right below it is called the Dr. Jackpot mine. Then over here where you see all the wooden cribbing that's holding the rock up above the highway there, that's where the old Mary McKinney mine used to be. And up above that at the very top of the hill up there, that's the Chicken Hawk mine. Chicken Hawk mine is pretty famous because it's really hot up there. It's that one particular mine. In fact, there's one of the ventilation shafts on the other side of the hill from the Chicken Hawk where they really couldn't even work down in that particular part of the mine. It was about 130 degrees down there. And on a cool day like this, if you drive by over there where you can see steam coming up out of that hole, it's so hot down in there. So the Chicken Hawk was a fairly warm mine. Just to give you a little background on the geological structure of this area, the area was all a big volcanic bowl at one time, and when that volcano erupted, where it cracked and fractured the solid granite, and then the more precious metals like the gold and the silver, they were tunnels. This is the Carlton Tunnel, and it's about 7 miles long. It drains out down towards Canyon City. It comes in on the 3,100-foot level of the Ajax mine over in Victor. This highway here, that was where the old Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad used to run. Like I said, that was about the only narrow gauge railroad in the area, and it came up from Florence, Colorado, down near Canyon City. And that highway continues on over to the town of Victor. Victor is called the City of Mines, and that's where all the really big mines are at. You may have heard some of the names of the Independence and the Portlands. Actually, the Portland mines are the richest producing mines in the area. The two Portland mines produced up around $63 million in gold. There was 2 shafts on that property. $63 million in gold. Back when gold was right just about $20 an ounce. And the Crescent mine, which is on around the corner here, was the richest producing single mine in the area, and it produced up around $49 million in gold all by itself. On the Crescent mine, one day they were mining along around the 12th level back around 1911, and they broke into this open cavern down what we call a bug. And it's like a big geode. The room was like 40 feet high and 20 feet long and 15 feet wide, and there's these crystals of gold sticking off the walls, claverite crystals of gold sticking off the walls. And they took $1,200,000 of the gold out of that bug in 30 days, and that was back when gold, like I said, was just about $20 an ounce. They brought that gold out of their cloth flour sacks to keep from losing it. They also put a vault door on the tunnel to keep the miners out of it, to keep from stealing that gold. A lot of people ask about what mines are producing now, and there's really not too much going on at this point in time. In fact, there's no underground mining going on around here at all right now. Back in 1980, when the price of gold was up around $700, $800 an ounce, there was quite a lot of activity in the mines. There were 15 mines that were in operation at that time, and now the price of gold back down between $350 and $400 an ounce, why it's really slowed the mining way back down. What is going on right now is what they call heat bleaching, and that's what all this machinery is down below us here. And they're going back through these old dumps. The old timers, they left a lot of the low-grade ore, they were after the high-grade ore. They left a lot of the low-grade ore behind because their recovery back in those days wasn't so good. So there's a lot of low-grade gold ore left in those dumps. And what they do is they build a pad, a leach pad, and that leach pad is built out of a layer of really fine sand, and then a really heavy layer of plastic, and another layer of sand over the top of that plastic to keep from puncturing it. And they crush the rock up off these dumps a little bit, and then they haul it to that pad. They dump it out of the pad, and I'm talking about a gigantic pad, really big. They dump it out of the pad, and they heap it up in these big piles, and then they put these sprayers on top, a sprinkler system, and they spray a solution of cyanide and water and caustic soda down over the top of the rock. The cyanide, it goes down through the rock, and it dissolves the gold. It actually leaches the gold out of the rock, and it all collects on the bottom of the pad. And they end up with a solution of cyanide and gold, and then that solution runs off the plastic into a settlement pond. They pump it out of the pond back to a plant, and the plant is where they separate the gold from the cyanide. When I'm not the engineer on this train, I work over there for Texas Gold Metals, and they're the ones that are doing that heat bleaching operation right now. And we pour out every weekend, we're 600 to 800 ounces of gold. Like you saw them pour there on Friday, about 800 ounces of gold. So it's a pretty impressive operation. And like I said, that's out of the waste rock that the old timers left behind. So that used to be a big mountain dump over there where all of that machinery was, but they pretty well scraped it down to the old the bare mountain there again now. I'd like to warn people about the dangers of the mine, that Mary McKinney mine right across the way that I was just pointing out. We had a gentleman up here last spring, 22 years old, did some exploring around there, and he crossed 2 fences to look down that Mary McKinney shaft, 2 barbed wire fences and a bunch of no trespassing signs and all that. And he was leaning on a fence post looking down that shaft, and that fence post gave way, and now he's 800 feet down in that shaft, about 1,500 feet deep, and they found him down there with an infrared camera about 800 feet down, and they'll never get him out. It's just too dangerous to send somebody else down there after him. So they're going to go ahead and cap that mine, and they'll have a memorial and his name on the Mary McKinney mine over there. So like I said, it's really dangerous. A lot of these mines are very deep. I was talking about the mines over in Victor, that Ajax mine I worked in back in 1976. It's now 3,350 feet deep, so it's a ways down there. I'm working down on the 3,100 foot level of the Ajax, and it's about 80, 85 degrees down there, so it's a place to be on a day like today around the wintertime when it's about 40 below zero up here. Well, that's the only place to be is down in that hole. Well, you don't at all compare though with the mines down in Johannesburg, South Africa. Those mines, they get out around 15,000, 16,000 feet over 3 miles down. And in those mines, it's really hot. They have to air condition that so the men can work down there. They run air conditioners, and then those guys still work at a temperature of 130 degrees. So they work for about 15 minutes, and they come back out and cool off in an air-conditioned chamber, and then they go back in and go to work. But those are really deep mines, and that's what makes the geologists think there's a lot of gold left in the area here. The vein structure is a lot the same as South Africa, and like I say, our deepest mine is only about 3,000 Pete said the geologists, they estimate there's somewhere between 75 and 80% of the gold still left in the mines. You got that name, it's about 80 degrees on the inside of that tunnel, so those hobos from Colorado Springs are right up here on the train, and that's where they camp out is inside that tunnel, and they're staying up here in Cripple Creek with that 80-degree temperature. tried to shut the whole operation down, but she was in Johnny Nolan's saloon chopping up with an axe one time, and he punched her in the face, knocked her down, and so she left town after that, just left Cripple Creek beat. But anyway, the old homestead was one of the most famous parlor houses, and it was owned by a madam named Pearl DeVere, and she was very particular about her clientele, so she always made an appointment with a banker to find out what a client was worth before she let him enter that establishment. And Myers Avenue, it stops right down there at the highway, and on the other side of the highway, well, that's a residential area over there, and so those folks, they wanted nothing to do with Myers Avenue, and they named their half of the street Masonic, and this half is named Myers Avenue, so they would have no association with the Myers Avenue end of it. Does anybody have any questions about this area here? Right behind the train, I should mention that one mine, and that's called the Abe Lincoln mine there.
Dad,
Get in here and start pouring. Come on.
Dad. Hey, Dad. The guy went.
We're gonna walk down that street to the shops, find some place they have some lunch.
Dad will get back on the train.
No, so then we're
Go get Miles back. But she didn't.
a little bit.
But could she find one? That bridge right there didn't go shh, shh. How come?
Those are pretty. See the rainbow, Rachel?
Where's the rainbow?
Look out this window. See how bright it is?